Hi, and welcome to Conversations with the Coach. And this is Randi Levin and my guest and friend, Amy Kirschner. And we are talking tonight about balance from the inside out. And it's kind of a hot topic. It's really based on myths and facts, some time management, some details about perfection, self-love, and of course, healthy lifestyle. So I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Randi Levin. I'm a certified transitional reinvention coach, which is a fancy way of saying that life does not always play out in a straight line, and nor should it. We need to change, and we should change in our lives. I am a subject matter expert on the art of reinvention, and that's how I base my practice on that. I'm an inspirational speaker and a thought leader, and involved in a lot of publications right now. I'm a contributor to Ridgewood Moms, Power Network, Identity Magazine I'm starting with this month, and a brand new publication called Transitions, which deals with families of divorce or going through divorce. And that debuts in April. And I have my own ebook coming out, I hope next week, called 9 Actionable Tips for Mastering Your Road to Reinvention. And that will be a free ebook to my private list participants, of which I hope everyone on this call will become. And I want to introduce Amy. Amy Kirschner is a board-certified holistic health coach. She helps successful, high-achieving executives and entrepreneurs take that leap into the healthy lifestyle they deserve and desire. And as a board-certified holistic health coach, she unlocks the why that keeps them stuck in stress-filled lives and unhealthy eating habits. Emmy's compassionate, innovative, and fun approach to coaching will harness your inner energy and transform your life. And Emmy, I'm going to let you tell everyone a little bit more about yourself as well.
Thank you. And I'm really excited to be doing this blab with you. It's going to be a ton of fun. I know we've put some really cool content together, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with everybody because I think it's a lot of value.
It is a lot of value. And so can we tell us a little bit more about you and your practice and what you do?
Sure. So I work with entrepreneurs and executives who are high achieving, successful, goals oriented, yet they haven't quite made the leap into the healthy lifestyle that they want or desire. And it's starting to show up in their business. So they're exhausted, even though they love what they're doing, and they're aware that they're not as focused or not working as efficiently as they could be. Sometimes, people come to me to lose weight, or they have health issues as well. Mm-hmm. So I look and take a very holistic approach when I'm working with my clients, and we help them move through what healthy eating looks like, mm-hmm. and how it's going to fit into their daily life and their schedule in a way that works for them.
Mm-hmm. And then great. It sounds like they could use some balance. So this is a really good topic. It's something that comes up all the time. It's I think one of the main reasons that people seek out coaches, whether it's a life coach or a health coach, is really that they're finding a disconnect between different areas of their lives. And it always comes down to that balance word. So, Emmy, what is balance? Does it really exist? What are your thoughts?
I think it does exist, but not in the way that we, I think, traditionally think about it. Mm-hmm. Because for me, at least, it's not about having equal pieces, and I'm a hand user, so.
Me too.
But it's not about having, exact amounts all the time. It's really about, finding the right fit for your day, your month, your week, and what's important for you. Mm-hmm. So that may be that sometimes family is the priority and other times work is the priority, and it's okay to switch those as long as you have, some routine and some practice to care for yourself as well.
I think that's great. And I couldn't agree more. And I think that one of the things that people forget about is that we change and we shift, right? We're not the same people that we are when we're 20, when we're 40, or we're 60. We're different. And so what we don't take into consideration, here I'm using my hands too, what we don't take into consideration is that our balance has to shift with everything that shifts in our lives. Mm-hmm. And we don't normally accommodate that. We think that everything in our family should stay the same, but we just took on a job that's completely different or has travel involved, or we're opening our own business, but everything else should be the same. It's not, and it can't be. It's not realistic.
And so,
right, go ahead.
That's a great time to look at how can I delegate some responsibilities. If you're taking on a new work project. For instance, I am just about to launch my French Fries to Foodies program. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been hyper focused on that, and it's taken some time.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that I've neglected my kids? No, but it does mean that I put more hours in. But I looked at at what I was doing and delegated some other responsibilities away so that I could have that quality time with my kids.
Exactly. So you were able to really take a look at it and move things around. I kind of think about it sometimes like any of us who love jigsaw puzzles, which I do, and you take that box of, let's say, 1,000 pieces and put it over on the table, and you got all these different pieces, and they all fit one way or the other to make the puzzle. But without all of them fitting in, they're not going to come together as one thing. And so it's having the patience with being able to fit those pieces together and, being able to adjust it as we go along. So why do you think balance is so evasive for people? Why do they get stuck in that whole overwhelm?
Most of us feel like we have a long list of shoulds.
Mm-hmm.
And when I work with my clients, one of the things that comes up frequently is that they should be doing this. They know they should do this. They should be doing the other thing. And it keeps them stuck from really moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or looking at that whole jigsaw puzzle.
Right. Exactly. And, one of the things that comes up all the time, and I have it for us to talk about a little later as well, but I got to mention it because it's really a key piece to balance. And that's our relationship to perfection.
Oh, yes.
And we're all related to it in one way or another. We may not call it perfection, but we don't want to fail. Okay. So we call it, fear of not being successful, fear of not being perfect, fear of not getting something done a certain way, which kind of locks us in place. And then we wind up not getting something done because, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We get stuck in what we're doing and know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. And so it becomes very hard to figure out how to balance things when perfection is the goal. So sometimes it's allowing ourselves that freedom to be a little imperfect.
Yes. And just kind of get stuff done. Like there's that good enough factor.
Right.
I think that, you and I talk about on a regular basis.
We do talk about that almost every conversation. It comes back to that,
It's like, I got it done. It's done. It may not be the way that I had initially envisioned it, but it's really good right now. And I'm not helping anybody by spending the next 3 months tweaking it.
Mm-hmm, exactly. For me, certain things like what we're doing right now, stepping into the technology in a big way is for me like a huge bear, a huge thing. And doing something like this that's live and that anything could happen. This whole thing could drop right now. We could have one of us. We could have 100 people on, nobody on, whatever it is. It's allowing it to be. And so for me, I feel really kind of joyous because it's an opportunity to really make that choice to lose a little bit of control. And in so doing, getting a little more balance back. That makes sense.
Yeah. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So some ways to better balance personal and professional. So how to get more clarity. One of the things that I'm always talking about is that we don't have a lot of control over a lot of things in our lives, but we do have control over our thoughts, and our thoughts lead us to making choices. And so we have control over the choices that we make. And there are a number of them that we can make. And I think one of the things that you highlighted that you wanted to talk about is some of those nurturing routines that we can do for ourselves.
Yeah. And this is key. There's a couple of things too. It's really having those practices of self-care that are super important because those are the places where you're going to be able to recharge.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be, a whole day, a half day, or even a whole hour, although I highly recommend massage.
Me too. I'm a regular.
Having, a regular morning practice, where you're not leaping out of bed and, trying to beat the clock to get out the door. And the same thing with, at nighttime, if you're, have a few minutes where you're you're not on your phone, you're not watching TV, you're not reading something on a Kindle or an iPad, and taking a few minutes to decompress, you're going to sleep better. you'll be less stressed, and you'll be more effective and more productive during the day.
Exactly. And one of the things that I tell clients all the time is to, whether they journal or not, and not everybody likes to journal. If you're going to journal at night, because you can close the book on things, which helps you to recharge your brain. And so while you're sleeping, you're kind of reprogramming. So when you wake up in the morning, you kind of know where you've been, you know where you want to go. The balance has a little more clarity involved in it. And the other piece of that is to put together whatever that to-do list is you're doing, simplify it to more of a today list. What are 3 key things that, you can do, or 3 things that work today? And what do you want to tweak for tomorrow? So that you're looking at constantly forcing yourself to look at what worked, what didn't work, where I am, where I want to be.
Right. I agree. And I'm going to add to that too. I love doing, a gratitude journal. So I have a little app on my phone. There's a cute little guy.
What's that app called? Do you know?
It's just called the Gratitude app.
That's easy. Okay.
And it's cool because you can upload pictures from the day and, make a little list. And then when you're done with the list, it gives you an inspiring quote. But it's an easy way to reflect upon and focus on the positive things that happen, because we spend a lot of time in general thinking about the negative things. Oh, I didn't get this done. Oh, that happened to me. Oh, well, it gives you a way to reframe. And if you're doing it right before bed, it not only is it relaxing, but it's a great positive way to end the day and then sleep better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing that I put down to talk about under nurturing routines is the whole idea of daydreaming. I think as a society, we've forgotten how to daydream.
Yeah, and play.
How to have an imagination, because we're always plugged into, devices, and we're at a frenzied pace as people. And so we don't often give ourselves that space and that time and that breath to be able to just look out a window. Think about it. You go into a restaurant and you're meeting your girlfriend for lunch, okay? Maybe you're meeting me for lunch. And we go into a restaurant and you're there before I am, okay? Right. So what do? You do whatever.
I'm on my phone.
Take out your phone and you're scrolling through your phone, right? You're looking at the menu. You're not looking around the place. You're not saying, wow, I'm taking it all in. I'm looking at that crazy lady with the hat, and I'm looking at the leaves falling. And no, we're so absorbed in what we're busy with that we don't see what's around us half the time, in a big way. And we're all guilty of it. We really are. I mean, the other day, literally, we had a big storm, and I woke up very early in the morning. I had no idea that something had happened outside. It was dark out. First thing I notice, I'm doing work. I look out the window and I see my neighbor's lights in their driveway, their car. And I'm like, but I never see their car in their driveway. Well, that's odd. Okay. But I'm busy, right? I'm doing my work. And then the sun comes up and I look out the window and I'm like, oh my God, a tree came down. That's why I could see their driveway, because a huge tree came down and almost hit my house. So guilty. I'm so absorbed in what I'm doing that there's a tree, literally huge 100-year-old tree, sitting outside my window that was like a foot from possibly going through the window. And I didn't see it. And we all do this. And so my challenge to everyone is always to think of ways that you can play, that you can connect back to childhood. So my Recoloring Life workshops, based on the whole crazed frenzy of adults coloring. And why are adults coloring? They're coloring to de-stress. They're coloring to give themselves personal time. They're coloring to be creative. They're coloring to daydream, essentially. And so the popularity of something like that, but it goes to any hobby we do. It goes to even exercising in the gym. That's play. That's a form of de-stressing and allowing yourself space to rebalance different parts of your life. So it's something that I'm always talking about. And the whole idea of prioritizing you. Not just your kids, not just your family, not just your work assignments or what you want to accomplish, but you. Because when you let yourself down, the rest of it falls apart. You got to be at the core of what you do.
I agree. And I think it's important to really, because I think with the whole should list, forget about what we really desire, like what it is we're working for, and what we really want out of life. And when you get centered on that, I think it's really helpful for you to help prioritize what you're going to do that day. I am a big Danielle Laporte fan. And she has this whole system called the desire map, and it helps you figure that out. And she has a journal that goes with it now. And every day I fill it out, and every day I, put the 3 things that I want to do. But she talks about your core desired feelings, and they can be, 3 to 5 things that how you want to feel. Whether it's abundant or at ease or like super person or,
I think that's a very, very, very important thing, what you just said. And I'm going to mirror it right back at you, because as coaches, we know that one of the things we're always asking clients about is, how does that make you feel? How do you feel about whatever? Because we know that our feelings and our emotions dictate so much about what's really going on for us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, I hate to say this, but it's the God honest truth. My clients pay me to make them cry, because it's not until you get to the emotional part where you're letting go and you're understanding what's going on for you.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing is true here in terms of, just allowing for the emotions to come through and the feelings to come through in what you're doing. So that's a great idea. And it brings us right into the next topic, which is really that mindfulness and gratitude that we've been talking about, but taking that up, even beyond. So what would work for you may not be something that works for somebody else, but there's other ways to be mindful. So some of those things are to really think about what's going on in the moment for you. It's the only moment we have.
Yeah.
We don't have yesterday. We don't have tomorrow. We only have this one. And people forget that. We're so focused on the baggage we're carrying around or what we're planning for tomorrow that we forget to live today.
Yeah. Well, and I'd like to add to that too, and kind of going back to, sitting in the restaurant and not being.
And we're going to do that too. And we're both going to look out the window.
The next time I go to Starbucks. But to be intentional too throughout your day, because again, we get stuck in back-to-back meetings or whatever is in our day, to have that, even that 30 seconds to kind of decompress in between spaces and think, all right, this is what I want for the next meeting, for the next experience, for the next whatever, so that you are accomplishing what you want.
Exactly.
And more of that shows up too.
Right.
So we're having that positive dialogue, as opposed to I didn't get to this and I didn't get to that, and that didn't go well. Did that person really mean that? Or as I said before, I think we think a lot about that way too much.
We do. And that falls right into that next thing that I had on my list, which was really about social media and what social media has done to us in terms of caring about what everybody else has to say, what everybody else is doing, and, who's doing it better and how they look. Think about it. No one takes an Instagram picture of themselves or posts a picture on Facebook of them crying. Right? Yeah. We only post the pictures of our friends and our parties and the great things we're doing and everyone's accomplishments. And look, I'm here, and look, I'm there. And it's all good and wonderful, right? So if you're in a not so good and wonderful moment, which we all have, and you're looking at some of this stuff, it's an overwhelm. It's very hard to balance oneself when one is looking at, strangers we're calling friends. That will start with that. Mm-hmm. And now not only are these strangers who are friends, they're all doing great stuff. Why am I sitting here?
Yes.
So there's kind of that constant feeling that we have sometimes of having to keep up with everybody and having to be doing all the things everybody else is doing. And it, I think, takes us off our own balance and our own game of what's important to us.
Oh, I agree. It's like the happy highlights.
Yeah.
That would be Facebook.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And, it started out being one thing. And I think it's grown into being something that's just become a part of our worlds and a part of our lives. And I think it becomes even more difficult for people today to figure out the balance, because in our parents' generation, right, they would leave work and take a vacation, and they would pack up themselves and their kids, and off they went. And work, they didn't do anything that involved work for that week, right? They didn't call in. Nobody was bothering them. They didn't take something with them. Now we're on our phones. We're texting work. We're checking our emails. We're submitting things. We can look at documents. We can do all this stuff. So we're always on. We're always plugged in. So how do you prioritize yourself in a society where you're technically on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Well, and I have a friend who has Sundays is no social media, like no electronics day.
Mm-hmm.
Started it because her kids were seeing her on her phone all the time, and that's not what she wanted them to do.
Mm-hmm.
She, had to model that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it's really hard sometimes because she's so automatic with some of it that she forgets.
We forget. We totally forget. We do. But I think that is a really good point. I think a lot of people are starting to do that, whether they call it a family night. If kids are younger and they're not entrenched in, 12 hours of homework, you can sometimes have a family night and, sit there and play board games like people used to do, or, watch a movie together, or do something that has a live presence in it. Making sure that when you're out to dinner, you're investing in this meal, that you made the effort to go out with your family. And let's say, you're all out and then everyone's got their phones on the table. Put the phones away. I know girlfriends that go out and they will all put their phones in the center of the table. And if anybody as much as picks up their phone, that person has to play the entire tab. So yeah, there's all different little tricks that we almost have to do for ourselves because it's a little out of control, and it really makes it so difficult to be able to put things where we want them to be for ourselves because we're plugged in.
I don't remember what the statistic, like the number is, but being on your phone all the time like that, or on, any device, computer, whatever, and you're checking social media, it ups your stress level significantly.
Completely. Because there's a part of you too, even if you like what you're reading, even if you're responding to people, there's a part of you that's kind of feeling like you shouldn't be doing what you're doing because you know that this may not be the most significant use of your time or the best use of your time in that moment. So there's lots of ways that we can tweak that. And I wanted to just talk, we're going to move on to stress in a moment, one of my favorite things. But I wanted to talk about the idea of perfection a little bit more because that's a big one in terms of balancing one's life. If we think we need to have something be completely done perfectly, that we're being watched and viewed for every hair being in place, essentially, then it becomes really hard sometimes to show up and do the things we want to do and complete them and move on. We hold ourselves back, and that's where a lot of the overwhelm comes. A lot of my clients will approach me. I need a coach. Why do they need a coach? My time management skills are awful. I'm overwhelmed with stuff. And what happens when we dig into it is very often, all times, it has nothing to do with their time management. It has to do with their idea that things have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And this, false evidence of having to be perfect. And
so how do you think people, what's the best way for people to let go of that?
Start accepting on a small level. So, we talk about stepping into your fear, and it's a big deal. Stepping into your fear is the only way that you can get past something. We all have fears. They're in place. Our limiting beliefs, our fears, they're in place when we're 7, 8 years old. Okay. We carry them all of our lives. And the only way that we get rid of them on some level is to approach them and step into them and try the smallest little actionable steps you can. So for me, not a big fan of tech. And here I am on Blab. Here I am doing, an ebook with a drip campaign. Here I am with, a website that, I was talking about, not all that long ago and saying, I don't really need that. But you know what? I did need those things. And it's a matter sometimes of saying, okay, well, is tech this big monster, or is tech something that I can do? Maybe I'm not going to be doing it perfectly, but I can do it. I can step into it and I can embrace whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to do when I go live on these things.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I mean, you and I have chatted about, I would rather be photoshopped. So.
Yes, we would. But you know what? That's not reality. And that's not what people want to see. People want to see who you are and what you are doing. And, it's not real if we're all Barbie and we're all, on the cover of a magazine. So, the reality is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to enjoy the couple of videos that I did, the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a number of ideas of what I'm going to do for future weeks.
Have you gone live on Facebook yet?
I have not gone live.
No. It's a treat. Okay, so moving on to stress.
I'm good. So
what did you say? I'm sorry.
If I can do it in one take, I'm good.
Yeah, right. It is. That is the great thing. Yeah. Okay, so stress. How does stress play a role in balance in our lives?
Well, we are one heck of a stressed out nation.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the World Health Organization refers to stress as an epidemic because we are so stressed. And stress really causes plays a part of 80% of all disease. So anything from allergies to cancer and anything in between, stress is playing a part of that. Like 90% of all doctors' visits has a stress component to it, even with the common cold. So it's super significant because we're not in balance.
Mm-hmm.
If we're in balance, we're not going to be as stressed.
Exactly. And it has a lot to do also with our overall energy level. So when we're stressed out, our energy plummets, and we sleep more, for one thing. Right. We don't show up to things at our best, in our best performance. We show up feeling defeated, feeling like a victim or angry about things, because we think there should be a different way. And if we let the stress go in some way, and we're going to talk about some of those ways, we let that stress go just a little bit, you can see just enough of a rainbow, so to speak, coming through on that, because we can make ourselves crazy over, trying to get everything done, out of trying to be perfect, out of, getting angry about everything everybody says. And it's a matter of whether we want to respond to something or react to something. So some of the ways that we can look at stress and do something with stress, what do you tell your clients?
Oh, there's so many things. One is to, again, prioritize and really focus on that 3 thing. And I know we talked about this already, but to really focus on only doing 3 things. Like once you've done the 3 things for that day, anything else is a bonus. It's happy dance and yay, I got more than I needed to done. And choosing those 3 things, carefully by, not only deadline and, whatever else is going on, but what's going to make you feel good. Doing things that don't bring you some happiness, even in a work project, delegate them, try to shift them around,
mm-hmm.
Do them and first thing in the day so that they're done and they're over with. There's a number of different strategies there. But focus on getting those 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
From a food perspective, huge, because when you're stressed and you're, anxious and, you're exhausted, your body's looking for energy. So the first 2 things we go to are sugar,
chocolate, and wine. And I had both today, so that's all good.
Sugar and coffee, and then we need the wine to relax.
I had that too.
So it ends up being this cycle. So it's like, I got to get up because I'm exhausted and I've got this huge day. And then it's like, I need the glass of wine or, whatever. So to relax. And it can affect our weight because our hormones are out of whack. And the liver can't process all of the hormones that are, going through our body. So then it stores it as belly fat. And that's really one of the number 1 reasons that I find that people don't lose weight is because their stress levels are so high, whether mm-hmm. they're trying to lose 5 pounds or 80 pounds. And once we get we address that, it comes off really quickly.
Mm-hmm. It's not. I think one of the pieces that's forgotten in people's dealing with stress is really that idea of making yourself important and giving yourself self-love. We tend to take care of everybody else first, or everything else first, and we figure we'll get to us tomorrow or later. Sometimes that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I always like to tell people to do is to really work with your calendar and at least put yourself in first. Because when you say, oh, I'll do that, or I should do that, or I want to do that, or my plan is to do it 3 times a week, if it's not down, you don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't do it. Half the time if it's down, you can't do it for some other reason, but if it's not there.
I make my kids schedule with me, because if I don't block that time off, it gets filled with something else.
Exactly.
And then we've got that time, and it's great quality time. And I'm not saying for fun things as much as, we need to work on a homework project, or they need me to, pick something up for them, or it's those types of things that are easy to forget.
Right. But we forget to put ourselves in, to make that date with ourselves. And by so doing, we then kind of subliminally are thinking that we may not be all that important. Right. And so that makes us stressed, because why is everyone else important? Why am I taking my kids all over the universe? Why am I, the one doing everything in the house? Why am I the one doing all the projects at work? So I think that there's just, you need to really look at where you fall in the scheme of things. And that shifts as well. There may be times where there's more time you can prioritize yourself, and there may be times where there really legitimately isn't a lot of time that you can. For me, one of the things that I found, and I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day, that it's kind of been a cornerstone in my family since I had children. We travel a lot, and I find that these trips are very rejuvenating in many ways. And now that I have my own business in a substantial way, because I really won't do work on vacation, not in any meaningful way anyway. And so it allows me to escape and to prioritize myself, and to daydream, and to have those moments with myself, and to do the things I like to do, to make sure that I'm exercising, to get in that yoga, to get in that walk, to connect with my family, so that we have meals that are real meals, and we're all eating at the same time in the same place, which is a wonder. It's all of those little pieces that we kind of forget about in the day-to-day, because we're so busy. So I find that the travel is really kind of a sanctuary for that. And it doesn't have to be a big elaborate type of thing. It could be a staycation even. But it's the concept of that downtime.
Yes.
Programming in that downtime and saying, I'm not going to accept any less than having, these 2 days or these 5 days or whatever.
No, I agree completely. And for me, it's those downtimes, that walk in the woods even, it could be half an hour.
Exactly.
That's when all my problems are solved. And that's when, that I've been kind of grinding away at, I'm like, aha, that's, the solution. And it's very decompressing as well.
Absolutely. And when you come back, even though you've got a lot of legwork to do because you haven't been working and you haven't been doing everything you're normally doing, and from, personal errands to on the job stuff, you come back to whatever you're working on with fresh eyes, with a different perspective. And, so putting those breaks in, even if they're short breaks. And that's one of the reasons why I made exercise a habit for me. So every day I do something, and I try to do it first thing in the morning, because it kicks off my day. It decompresses. It allows me to think and start my day in a way that I know is good for me. So it's kind of a strong start, if you would. Already accomplished something, check. So that's something that always works for me. And I find that if I wait, it doesn't get done.
And I'd like to add too that, particularly with the exercise, it's find that time that works for you, and definitely put it in your calendar. And it's non-negotiable time.
It's non-negotiable time, and it has to have consistency.
Yeah.
Because without the consistency, you're going to be fighting yourself on that, and then you're going to be angry at yourself that you're not going to the gym, and you're not taking a walk, and you're not, taking care of yourself.
Right. And be realistic about what you can and cannot do. A lot of people, I think, they're like, oh, well, I need to exercise, so I've got to go to the gym 5 days a week, and I've got to work out an hour and a half every time. And then that doesn't happen, and they feel guilty. So it's, start with the 15 minutes, 3 times a week.
Guilt, the guilt word. Yeah. Yes. What does guilt have to do with it? It has a lot to do with it, right? So I think we walk away from so many of the things that we do feeling guilty, and it stops us from being able to do some of the things that we really do want to do, because we're walking around feeling that we should have done something else. But like to your point of before of the should list, which I really like that title, I should be doing this. Says who? Is the little bird that should go up. Says who? That's the voice in your head. So maybe you should be, but maybe there's some other version of that. Maybe there's something you like better that you don't even know you'd like better because you're so busy thinking you should be doing this.
I should not eat ice cream ever. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I hear, from friends even like, "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe what I ate," and they've been pondering it for days. They don't feel good. I'm like, and it's okay. Enjoy those things, whether it's either ice cream or candy or chips or French fries or whatever. It's when it becomes the norm, as opposed to something that you're choosing to enjoy. Right.
So that's the word treat. I think if we look up the dictionary definition of treat, it will tell us that it's something that's kind of like a prize, right? Something that we want to have to reward ourselves in some way for good behavior, for whatever it is. So we take the reward away from ourselves. We can't really enjoy the experience. So let's say we really love ice cream, and then we had it, and then we walk around feeling guilty that we had the ice cream. Well, now you didn't enjoy it. So what was the point? Okay. So if you can't enjoy it, then that's one of life's pleasures.
Yeah, and it's choosing it. It's really being conscious as you're moving through what you're going to have, and being like, "Ooh, the ice cream is going to be awesome today," and being happy about it. And maybe that day wasn't the day that you ate great, and that's okay because you get the next day to do it better.
Exactly, and that's a very wonderful point. You get the next day to do it better. So it's not in stone. Balance is not in stone, and the choices we make are not in stone. They are the choices we made today, in the day that we do have, and tomorrow we get to take that dry erase board and that eraser, and we get to erase and start all over with all the pretty markers to make that day whatever we want. Right, a whole new day of balance. And I think if you look at it that way, that every day is a fresh start, which is kind of the idea of that journaling at night and the priority list of, what did I do well? What do I want to tweak? Is the idea that we can erase it. It's not permanent. I just wrote a blog post called It's Temporary. And it is essentially based on exactly this, that, 1 minute becomes the next moment.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, the last minute we just talked is gone. Okay. If we want to feel guilty about it, or we want to feel whatever we want to feel about it, we're robbing ourselves of the moment we're in, and everything has a beginning and an end to it. So if today isn't your best day, perhaps tomorrow will be. If today was an ice cream day, perhaps tomorrow won't be.
And I think one way to look at it too is, it's a marathon. We're running the marathon, not the sprint. And exactly. I have moments where, I'm like, oh, I'm going to stay up and I'm going to, work late and I'm going to finish all these things and blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, no, zip, running the marathon. We're not sprinting, because being exhausted and sleeping not enough isn't going to help me or anybody else in the long run.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It robs you in the long run.
Most of us are trying to stuff 3 days, worth of stuff into, 24 hours.
Exactly. And I think we're all guilty at some point of that. We all do it. And then we look at it and we say, oh my gosh, what did I just do? But it's the ability to learn from some of the things that we do, and to know when you may not be treating yourself the way you treat other people or the way you want to be treated. And it's being able to have the ability tomorrow to change that scheme for yourself a little bit. So we named this segment Balance from the Inside Out, and we didn't just do that by chance. Healthy mind, healthy body. So what's happening internally really mirrors what happens externally for most of us. So if externally we are a slob and very messy with things, internally there's probably some chaos going on. Externally, if we are eating the wrong foods constantly in habit or overeating a lot, perhaps there's some insecurity or something that's going on inside. And I think there's also the reverse on that. And I'm going to speak from personal experience here. Sometimes there are red flags that external that happen first. So I did a huge pivot and a huge transition in my life in terms of making a huge career shift and opening my own business and going back to school and getting certified in coaching and all of this. And the kickoff to the pivot, unbeknownst to me, was a significant weight loss and a healthier lifestyle and an exercise regimen and all of this stuff that was going on for me. And I could see it, it was all very apparent to me, but I didn't know where it was going until it was going there.
Right.
And then, wait a minute, that was the first red flag. Those were the first changes that took place. They took place externally for me, but then I had to be able to read the internal. Mm-hmm. So speak to that a little bit, Emmy. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's funny because I refer to it as the junk drawer.
Right. We all know that.
Because how you feel on the inside definitely shows up not only in what you're going to eat, but what your space looks like and the way your life is. Mm-hmm. And getting some of that to be a little bit more quiet helps with everything else. So, for instance, in your case where you started making healthy changes externally, it really led you to where you are now. It's a whole growth. It's a journey experience.
Right. Exactly.
Which is so cool.
It is cool. And I don't think people link it together or don't stop to think about the significance of some of that. But, it's really very empowering when you do, when you see that you're subliminally almost doing certain things for yourself one way or the other. You could be self-sabotaging yourself also, but you're doing these things and they're showing up in different areas. And it's almost like you want to take a Sharpie marker and connect the dots between them and say, okay, well, what's the message? What's the whole picture? And that's one of the things we do when we coach someone is to take the Sharpie marker and connect the dots essentially. But it's really, really amazing to see some of the things that are already out there that we're already doing one way or the other, but we're not putting it together.
And it shows up with a lot of chaos as well. Externally, well, both externally and internally. If your head's constantly going and you've got that little voice in the back of your head with the constant negative dialogue, you're going to see that that's what happens on the outside, whether it's your friends who aren't very supportive or you have stuff that just keeps happening. Those are the signs, or you're, in a car accident or, things that happen to show up repetitiously. They're all those signs that things aren't quite right. So it's a great time to kind of step back and be like, all right, I need to slow down, or, I need to look at things differently and give that a little bit of space.
Yeah. If you think about it almost as like, we go on vacation, we take all these pictures. Well, now we take pictures every day because that's what we all do. But we go on vacation and take all these pictures. And in the old fashioned way, we'd stick them in an album, right? It's all these little snapshots of the things that we do at different points in our lives. And if you were to put together an album, I used to do a lot of scrapbooks, so I'm speaking from experience here too. You put together an album, there's an order that you kind of want to put it in. And you want to try to figure out where the common threads are and where things link together. It's sort of the same thing. Is trying to figure out all those little aspects of the things we do, good and bad, and how they link together for us and where that ties back to how we're balancing or not balancing our lives.
Yeah, and I love it too, because once you start doing that, everything else clears. One link and everything else is opened up.
Exactly. Exactly. It's amazing.
And I think it can be a little scary sometimes, and sometimes we're a little slow to step into that, but it's kind of like stepping into this white light and being like, wow. Now.
It is. And, for those of us who've been coached and lived that, it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Because it's like you took a highlighter and went right through something and said, oh my gosh, this is the thing. This is the bomb. I'm there. I get it now. And it's not that it wasn't there for you, because we all come up with our own solutions to things. It's just that all of a sudden you're able to see all the pieces.
It's taking the blinders off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So the statement, we are what we eat, is that true or false?
It's so true. It is so true. And down to like a genetic level, so true.
Wow.
Yeah.
Elaborate, because I would like to know more.
What scientists are finding is that what you eat can either increase or decrease your risk for pretty much every disease. So it turns off different genes and turns on different genes that will either increase your risk or decrease, so help or hurt you.
Is that a whole life event? So if you eat poorly as a child, but you eat better as an adult, or is it something that's ongoing?
It's ongoing. I mean, you can change at any time, and that's going to help you.
It will.
Yeah.
So it's never too late, I guess is what I was asking. I didn't ask it properly.
That if you've been eating really poorly for, 35 years, it's going to take more than 3 weeks to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's where we have kind of that misconception that, doing the diet's going to help.
Right.
It really is about having the lifestyle with having, the comfort foods that we love as a piece of the healthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other cool piece for me is that we're finding more now too, the connection between your healthy gut equals healthy brain, in that if your immune system's functioning properly and your gut's healthy, which means it's not inflamed, your digestion's good, and that's kind of the core, for me at least, of all of your just general health, you're less likely to have anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD. And all the hormones and all the little chemicals that are supposed to be, activating, that are missing some of those things, are then they normalize. Okay. So by eating healthy, we really are empowered to choose and control our health.
I feel empowered. I feel like tomorrow's going to be a whole different eating day.
How many times have you heard, I'm concerned about X because my mom's had it and my...
Of course. Think about it. You go to a doctor, it's the first thing. They take that generic history of who's had what.
And that's important, but that doesn't designate you as having that. And by eating healthy, you can essentially reduce that to almost zero.
I'm going to quote you on that one. We reduce it to zero. That's pretty strong stuff.
Yeah. I've seen it. It's been amazing. I've seen people heal from cancer just by eating differently.
Wow.
And that's pretty powerful.
It's very powerful. So why doesn't everybody do that then?
The money in that.
You're right. So this brings us to one of the key topics that we're going to kind of wrap up with, which is really our relationship to time, because our relationship to time parallels our relationship to everything we do in life, and certainly our relationship to our balance. Yeah. Overwhelmed, not enough time, too busy. I'm too busy for this. I can't fit it in. Wish I had the time for. Gosh, I have so much to do. We've heard it all. We hear it all. We say it all. We're all guilty of it. What do we do with that?
We make the time for what's important. And that includes checking Facebook.
Or not.
But when you start thinking about that, like, what are my real priorities? What's really important to me? Is it running around to 50 different places, or, or is being on social media every, hour, or any number of other things that we're doing, that we're filling the time that we really have, that, you have to look at it that way.
Exactly. And really how we go about using our time or not really affects everything that we do. So it's really important to be able to figure out how to gain a little bit time back in our lives. And brought up the social media, and that's a key way. But there's all kinds of ways that we individually waste some of our time. So if we think about, gaining back even 5 minutes in our day, at the end of the year, if you could figure out 5 minutes to gain back in your day for something you really want to do, just gain it back, take it away from something you're already doing. At the end of the year, you've got like a bonus weekend.
I know.
Imagine a bonus weekend. I can do anything. I can stay in bed and watch movies all weekend, not feel guilty and not care, and probably eat ice cream, and it's all good.
Yeah.
So, but it's really a matter of shifting what we're doing so that it's working for us and not against us. And we can't always do it. There's times that we do have real deadlines and hard stops on things. There's certain things that we have to do, but it shouldn't be at the expense of our health, or the expense of our loved ones, or the expense of prioritizing ourselves and the only life we've got. It's not a run through.
Right. And for me, it's about doing less.
Yes.
And just not like, I have a list like this long. There we go. This long.
Right. I stopped making the list. I only make the list if it's something I know that I'm really going to forget or whatever, because, it's overwhelming. And then you wind up putting things down just to cross them off. Oh, I did it. Let me write it down. It's not on my list.
But, but life things, like I have, there's a long list of places I want to travel, and experiences I want to have. And it makes me happy to have that list. I choose carefully which things I'm going to do throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. But that's a motivational list. That's a little bit different, because that's something that you're aspiring to versus like a to-do, which is, by connotation, busy work and errands and parts of your business that you don't necessarily want to do. But one of the best things we can do is not only to have that motivational list of some sort, but one of the best things we can do is to take apart our day a little bit into some of the smaller steps. What can you do? And somebody you and I both know and love told me this, when pushed for time, one of the best things one can do is say to oneself the following: what can I do right now? This moment, I got 20 minutes. What can I do? It is so empowering. I can't even begin to explain how incredible that is. And it's almost like a gift to self in that moment, because you can do a lot for 20 minutes.
I do that all the time. And it's great for those times when you were planning to do, X, and X didn't happen. So now you've got that 20 minutes.
Right. Or you got to take a kid somewhere in 20 minutes, or, you've got to be at a doctor's appointment, or you've got to do something else. And you're like, oh, so, what's the first thing we go to? We start with the Facebook, or we start with the social media, or we, waste time doing something. But sometimes if you say, okay, in 20 minutes, I think I can get X done, and then you get it done, it's like, yay.
Oh yeah. I'm uber hyper focused on that 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll check half a dozen things off. Like that'll be a great time for me to make a bunch of phone calls.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
So anything else you wanted to add? Because I wanted to give us a little time to wrap up and tell people a little bit more about where they can find us and where we're going to be at and what we're doing.
I want to share my favorite quote.
Go ahead.
Because this is one of the things that kind of sticks in my head, particularly when, things go awry. And that it's from the Dalai Lama, and it's: the point of life is happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I only want to do fun things. I mean, all I want to do is play. So
I agree.
The thing that I love.
I agree. Bring on the play. More play.
Play a lot here.
That's great. I love that.
As people are thinking about, their balance and where they can make shifts, think about what's going to make them happy. Not what they should be doing, not what they could be doing, not what they did yesterday or 3 days ago or last year. What is going to make them happy right now?
Right. Exactly. What's the thing that if you're, 85 and you're, telling your life story, what's the thing that you want to make sure is in that newsreel?
I have a list for that too.
You don't want to miss all the good stuff because you're so busy doing the to-do, and it does come back to ourselves and to play and to, being there for ourselves.
Yeah. And schedule those times in, as we talked about, like it's so easy to get caught up in the chores of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Emmy, this was so much fun. I can't thank you enough for coming on with me. I wanted to just go through a little bit about what we're both doing. You want to start?
Sure.
What's coming up for you, and what are you launching?
I have so many things coming up.
I do.
Run through the list. I have my ebook coming out in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be a roadmap to healthy success. And I'll talk about how how we can all make healthy living really the lifestyle easily. My French Fries to Foodies program is going to be live next week. And that is designed for parents of picky eaters and how to help them have more variety in their life easily. I'm launching a corporate pilot program, the group program, in April.
That's great.
Yeah, and I always have speaking stuff coming up.
Okay, where can people find you?
I am everywhere. My website is emmykirschner.com, and that's EMIKIRSCHNER. I'm on Twitter, obviously, at Empress Emmy, and then Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, and Google+.
Wow, you're everywhere. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So anyone in the New Jersey area, I've got a couple of upcoming events happening. I've got a 3/8 of Recoloring Life at Bergen Community College. On 3/11, I have an event that is almost sold out. There's a few seats left. It's called Spring Clean 16, Renewing Your Money, Mindset, and Style. It's at Morgan Stanley with Carrie Fitzgerald, who's a wonderful financial planner, and Martha Fickinger, who is a fashion stylist. And we're talking about spring renewal. And what a swag bag we have as well. On 3/16, Manage Your Time, Manage Your Life, which is a time management piece at Ridgewood Community School. And there's more. And it's all on my website, as is everything else you need to know about me at www.randylevincoaching.com. And I do have an ebook coming out. It's called 9 Actionable Tips for Mastering Your Road to Reinvention. I'm hoping it'll be out next week, and it's available free of charge for my private list participants. So please jump on the website and sign on and sign up for that. And I can be reached at Randi at randylevincoaching.com. That's RANDI at randylevincoaching.com. And I'd love to hear from people. If anybody would want a complimentary session, those are available as well. And I'd like your thoughts on balance. So please share those with me as well.
Because as being here, I love connecting with people. I respond to emails personally.
I do too.
Yeah.
And we do to each other. So thank you for joining us, everybody. And thank you, Emmy, for co-hosting with me. And I will be back actually on 4/20 for the next Conversations with the Coach live on Blab with the business and life success strategist, Sarah Oblak Spicer. Someone awesome. You know. She's awesome. So it will be a little bit more of a lot of these balance issues as well, but as they pertain to business and being a mom.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. And this is great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great
Bye,
night.
everybody.